What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C. Let me tell you about a great place in Vision Golf. Indoor simulators have exploded in golf, and Vision is leading the charge here in Portland. With the use of leading simulator technology in Golf Zone, you get transported to 200 plus courses across the world with the most realistic simulator experience you'll ever come across. With a hitting mat that not only gives you the turf to simulate real rough and sand conditions, the mat also raises up and slopes to create real live positions like playing on the actual course. If you're in need of a lesson, Vision Golf also has you covered with the PGA teaching pro Ignacio Cern. On top of that, they create an atmosphere with full bar and food options and sports on all the TVs that you're never going to want to leave. This is a great place for all events to be hosted with the VIP section to accommodate groups of all sizes. If you live in the greater Portland area or even the Pacific Northwest, you have to come out to a Vision Golf and check it out in Tigard, Oregon. Use code MUNICIPALS and you will get your first hour for free on your first visit. Also, check out league nights and monthly events. Envision Golf, the Pacific Northwest premier simulator facility.
How hard did you push it? Till I black out? Yes. Numerous times, yes.
What's happening, MuniciPals? This is Big C coming back at you again. Take two, Bend Trip with JD and Bean Mace. Welcome back, fellas. You ready to talk Crooked River Ranch?
Couldn't be more ready.
Let's do it.
Well, if you guys tune in to last week's episode, we chatted about the resort course at Eagle Crest. Fun environment out there. Definitely recommend it. This week, we are talking about the course that we played the two-ball in. It was me and JD and our buddy Ethan, which was our last-minute ad, and Bean as a team. And I'm going to tell you right now, for a course that's 5,800 yards, that course was tough. It was not a handshake. You know, I think we looked at the scorecard and we were all like, "Oh, this team event, 5,800 yards at elevation. I like our chances." And that's why my dumbass picked up the best player that I know in JD, and I was like, "Let's go dominate the field here." And I don't think either one of us brought our best game that day.
If putting didn't need to happen, I played great. We don't need to. I think we talked about it in the last episode. Went through a little, still maybe kind of matriculating my way through a bit of a rough patch on the greens. Sorry, Chris, I let you down. It was a fun event, and definitely, I mean, it's a 5,800 yard par 71. It is a quirky little golf course, but super fun if you're in the area. I think hard pressed to find. I don't know what it costs to play there. Kind of a funky property. I'm not 100% sure what exactly the property is from a resort standpoint. But for 5,800 yards, you'll hit a lot of different clubs in your bag, whether it's off the tee or into the greens. There's some opportunities to make a ton of birdies, and there's a chance to make some big scores if you get it going a little squirrely.
Yeah, the property is something all in its own. Before we even get talking about the golf course, we'll have to talk about this property. So, like, this property reminds me of, like, any movie that you've ever watched where people go in the summertime and it's, like, the place where families stay for 2 or 3 months, and there's, like, a pool that's fenced off, and there's, like, a little snack shack where people can, like, grab some food, and all the dads are in, like, the short, like, swim trunks, and there's, like, tennis courts over. It's wild. You could tell that it was a, like, family getaway resort that, like, people from Portland and things like that went in, like, the 70s and 80s. and it just hasn't changed or evolved since then. It's kind of nuts. Like, has stayed the same. Like, the lady working that snack shack where we got those breakfast sandwiches, she might have been the OG that's been there since that resort started.
She was the cute girl working next to the pool.
Oh, if you thought 83-year-old woman was adorable, I would use adorable,
I'm just
not
saying.
cute.
I mean, 60 years ago when it opened, she might have been the cute girl working next to the pool.
She
Who knows?
could have.
She had one hell of a biscuit sandwich, though. I'll give her that.
They did. You know what? I will not snuff that. The coffee was absolutely the worst, sludge I've ever had in my life. But breakfast sandwiches were on point. She's been making that same breakfast sandwich for like 30 years.
I may describe the property a little bit different. You're driving in from along this like bluff, right? Looking down at the golf course, you can kind of see most of the layout as you're coming in. There's a river down below. There's some really cool views along the golf course. But it looks like what Chris described as your family getaway as a backdrop for a serial killer movie.
Yeah,
like it's the only town within
well
30 miles, no one's going to hear you scream type of property.
A lot of trailer spots. Yeah, it was a little weird.
We didn't know if the bar was open at the end of our round.
The bar didn't
let alone
have
at
windows.
the beginning.
If you guys remember,
that's what I mean.
No windows.
Yeah,
like,
it's a little creepy.
And then it's like 98 outside, and she goes, "Oh yeah, the AC's broken." We're like,
and you weren't supposed to drink any of the water on property.
Yes, that was the other thing. You only could drink bottled water. They're like, we haven't been authorized to allow people to drink out of the taps, and we were like, oh, thanks for knowing. And then, love you, Travis and Zach. I know you guys are listeners, but the Northwest Golf guys supplied bottles of water that ended up running out, I think, 3 holes in. The guy came back around like on the 3rd hole, and we were like, hey, could we grab another bottle of water or two? And he's like, nope, already ran out.
We see he had the 3 cases total?
Yeah, like 3 cases total for like 48 or like 50, 60 plus guys, I guess. And like, yeah.
It's 100 degrees.
It was 100 degrees outside and no cart girl for the entire round. That was probably the most brutal thing about the entire day. It was so hot out there, and they were not distributing water. And I think on the turn, like I loaded up on like 2 or 3 waters. Like it was dangerous out there. I was not drinking at all that day till after round. But let's talk golf course. So Crooked River Ranch. We played two man, 2-ball, which that doesn't really make sense to you guys. It's just 2-ball, 2-man team, and so we got the privilege to start on 1, which was nice because it was the first time any of us have seen the course, so we didn't have to like get thrown right off the bat by like starting on 6 or in the middle of the course somewhere. So that was really nice to be able to start right on 1, being the first group to tee off there, so we didn't even have to wait being Team B. That was super sick of Travis and Zach to hook us up with that. What did you guys think of the first hole? I think I kind of want to dive into this course a little bit more. I think there was a little bit more substance to this course than there was the resort course that we talked about last week. What was your impression kind of stepping up to that tee box, the scenery, canyons with the river below? What was your thought there, JD?
I mean, dead straightaway tee shot. I hate straight tee shots. But just a dead straight par 4.5. I'm looking at the card right now. It says 460. Again, elevation. So it doesn't play terribly long. but out of bounds right, out of bounds can creep in left at the driving range. You're kind of in the valley, so you have the bluffs up to your right and behind you a little bit, but you can't really tell what's to come. I would say further into the golf course, right? Some of the really cool views that we'll talk about. So really, it's just a dead straight away, flat par 5 at 460. Get something in play and try to make a birdie on hole 1. It's a good little. What do you guys call it? Warm handshake, I think is how you typically refer to it. It's a warm handshake of an opening hole.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with JD. I hate a straight tee shot. I never hit the ball straight, so it doesn't matter. But here I did, real nice low left miss came into play and hit it off the hill right into the driving range. So hell of a start for me on 1 there, but we battled back and had a good time out there. But yeah, real nice, easy intro to the course.
I think one thing to speak of on this course, I loved the green complexes. I think every single hole had a very intriguing green complex that was very different from the last, in difference in undulation, size, placement, kind of how it's placed in the hole, and what they did bunkering wise. There wasn't a lot of bunkering around the greens on this course. I would say most of the bunkering was kind of off the tee, if any. There were a couple holes that had some bunkers that came into play along the greens, but for the most part, the protection was the undulation and the slopes of the greens, and they were running quick too. They were fast that day, so I think that's where a lot more of the protection of the 5,800 yards kind of came into play.
Yeah, it's one of those courses that if you were pin high, you weren't going to make the putt, right? I mean, you had 10-foot putts with 10 foot of break. They were fast, but not so fast that if you were above it, you couldn't make it, or you had to be super defensive. So really, it was above or below the hole, you're okay. Below the hole, obviously preferred. If you got flag high on most of those holes, you were getting pretty defensive. You're playing some break, and it's a little concerning when you have a right to left breaker and you're kind of looking at the hole over your left shoulder. But that's how a lot of those greens are tilted or canted.
So kind of moving on from hole 1, not a lot to. I don't want to go hole by hole here. Gets a little mundane, but on the front 9, what were your guys' favorite holes that you went out and played on the front 9? Let's start with you, Bean.
I'd probably go with number 4, the first par 3 out there. Like that hole, super straightforward, raised tee box, hitting down to a real slope green, like you mentioned, gnarly tilt on that green from back to front, and the pin almost off the back there as well made it pretty tough. But really like that hole, kind of shooting into the canyon as well.
Did the fact that you made a 2 on that hole have anything to do with you liking it?
No, I mean, I like par 3s. I did play that hole well. Should have won the KP there. Don't know how I didn't, but that was a softball, and you knocked it out of the park there, JD. Thank you.
had to give you your roses or flowers or whatever the kids say, right? I mean,
that's not why it was. I just really like that par 3 on the front.
Hit that thing.
And it did help.
You hit that to like under 10 feet. That was like 8 feet from the pin. I have no clue how anybody hit that closer than you.
I didn't deserve it though. It was a horrible thin shot. But yeah, it turned out pretty decent.
JD, what would you say your favorite hole on the front was?
Well, I know we're going to talk about 5 because I don't think you go through this course without talking about 5. I think 7 was really interesting. The uphill, being I'll kind of piggyback on you from a par 3 standpoint. Uphill, 2-tiered green, pin was on the back tier. Pretty easy to spin it off the front, pretty easy to hit it long, and with how quick the greens are, there's just no good option when the pin's up on top of that little tier. So I thought that was kind of a sneaky little hole, right? I don't think it would be chosen by most. I don't think there's a ton to it. The slope is pretty severe, maybe even a little bit too much. But again, 5,800 yard par 71, can't really blame them for having some defense. And then I'll just sneak in a quick second favorite of number 8 was pretty cool. The downhill par 4 over the water. Short enough that if you can give it a poke, I think both Ethan and I went for it. Both got over the water. So it was a fun hole that gave you some options from a drivability standpoint, with water, right? Not with out of bounds, not something that's stroke and distance, but something that from a risk reward standpoint makes sense to pull the trigger and give it a shot.
That's the hole I was actually going to say was my favorite on the front was 8. I thought that was such a cool hole because even if you did take the risk to hit it, you had so much room behind the green to blow it past and play it back towards the green. As long as you hit it left, not into the trees on the right-hand side, you were pretty much okay. You just didn't want to hit it short or hit it right. And so if you were missing it anywhere long or left, you were good to go. And, then you could also play it, 3-wood to like 90 yards in and have a really fun, shot in right over the water. And I really thought that hole was kind of intriguing from a tee box standpoint because it really had you guessing if you could clear the water or not, and if you couldn't, you knew what you had to leave yourself with the number that you felt most comfortable to hit in. And I thought that was a really cool, quandary when you were standing at the tee box.
We can't go to the back 9 without talking about number 5.
No, Number 5 was nuts. Well, number 5 was great just because of the view that you received off the tee box. You walked off of 4, drove your cart kind of around this little roundabout, and then you just stepped up to this tee box that had just this gorgeous, like, carved out canyon into, right off these, like, flat, like, desert mesas. And just had like a river running through the middle of it, and it was absolutely like breathtaking from a view standpoint.
You knew what was coming too, because we saw it. If you remember, we saw that tee shot standing on the 3rd tee. There was a little bit of a backup on the 3rd tee, which was a drivable par 4. That might be a constant theme on a course of this length. But we were standing on the 3rd tee, and we were looking over, and I think everybody kind of had the same thought of, is that a par 4 or a par 3? Because it's this huge, back to number 5. 5's this huge slinging dogleg left that on the card measures 260, but as the crow flies, I think we lasered it at like 200.
Yeah.
Right? So on a straight shot, it's a 200-yard hole. It's 260 around the bend. So we were watching all these guys hit irons off the tee towards the green, and we're going, I don't know if that's a par 4 or a par 3. And then you get there, and you've obviously already seen the river a little bit, and now you're on this bluff, and you're faced with that shot. And sure enough, it's a par 4, but it's a cool little quirky hole.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody can hit a tee shot over 200 yards, you're never going to take the like safe route. You're never going to hit like 160 yard, six iron or whatever your 160 yard club is, out into the fairway to, play it safe, then cut it over. Like, if you can hit a 200 yard shot, you're going to fucking take that risk and hit it right over that canyon because the trees are low enough. There's a big gap between the trees. You can see right to the flag, right into the green. You just have to be able to hit a high enough ball, 200 yards, to be able to get there. And I thought that was probably one of the funnest holes of the entire day.
Oh, yeah, super cool looking. It was great to see from the tee on 6, watching the guys behind us play, different view of the hole. Super interesting. And like you said, you can play it so many different ways.
I'll give you an alternative thought. for people who hit it 200 yards, right? Where's their miss?
Miss on this hole is you can miss as far as you want right.
That's what I mean, right? So someone who hits a driver, let's say 200 yards, their miss normally is probably a slice, right? So if you line it up at the green and you slice it, who cares?
Yep.
You're on land. If it were the opposite, if the ravine and everything was right of the hole versus left, it might be a different story in terms of playability or fun factor. But I think this isn't one of the, hey, it's drivable for some. If you're playing the right tees, this is drivable for probably everybody.
Yeah, and I think that just makes it a fun golf hole. Like, it's intriguing because, I mean, if you duff it, it's instant OB, you're reteeing. Like, there's no missing it short, but you can miss it. The guys behind us, we finished up the hole. We're on the tee box. And I can't remember his name. He was running the actual event for Travis and Zach. But he hits his tee shot over the green. There's like a little, like, I don't even know what it is, an outhouse, a restroom. There's something there. I think it's a bathroom. He hits the roof of the bathroom, lands his ball almost on the tee box on the next hole where we're standing and teeing off. He runs up or walks up. He goes, oh, no worries. I'm just going to flop this up, and I got this. We see him on the next tee box, and he goes, oh, yeah, I birdied that. And we were like, are you – what? How did you birdie that? And he goes, oh, yeah, I flopped it from where I was at onto the green and then one-putted it in. I was like, that green alone was diabolical. It sloped so heavy back to front that – he must have landed it on the front left to putt up the hill, because if you were putting it sideways, it was almost nearly impossible putt. It was super difficult. I think all four of us, I think, had side putts from either the left or right hand side of the hole. None of us had an uphill or downhill putt on that hole.
No, that was one of those sidewinders. I don't know how he made three from over there.
I have no clue. But let's move on to the back nine. So it's very obvious. I don't know if you guys got this same feeling, but it's pretty obvious that the course was built as a 9-hole course. And the second 9 on the backhand side was added. Because you can tell how open a lot of the holes were on the back 9. With kind of the prairie landscape. It was just a night and day holes from the front to back. And I don't know if it's true or not. I don't have any source behind that. It's just playing the amount of different golf courses that I've played felt very much like those were designed completely separately.
The back 9 felt like it was designed. The front 9 felt like it was kind of cobbled together, for lack of a better term. Not that they were bad golf holes, just not someone who made a living designing golf courses, if you will. The back 9 had more of a professional routing to it, if you will.
That's exactly it. It's almost like the person that decided to build that, like, resort, I guess you would call it, back whenever it was built, was probably an amateur that went out there and just built it himself, or a construction crew that decided, oh yeah, we want to have a golf course for this resort, and we're just going to add it on and just have these 9 holes next to the pool. And that's kind of how the front felt. And I think it was cool because when you get holes like that, you get hole number 5, which probably wouldn't have been designed exactly the same way if a professional architect came out there and designed that. Like, most of those holes wouldn't be the way they were if a professional actually went out there and designed it. But I think that's when you got onto the back 9 and it changed completely over. And I think you kind of had, what you expect, really good high-end course to have in Bend. So, saying that, What was your favorite hole on the back nine, JD?
This one's a little bit harder for me, but I'll go with 17, just because I think it was probably the hardest hole on property. One of the longer par fours. Actually, looks like it is the longest par four. It's still 405 yards downhill. It's just this kind of sweeping dogleg left, where the right side of the hole is a mountainside, if you will. So it's kind of framed by the canyon or the mountain that sweeps around to the left with some trees and water down the left-hand side. So kind of a tough fit from a tee shot perspective. It definitely shapes for a right to left tee shot, which is not my preferred shot shape per se. And you don't really know where to hit it. I think somebody had the Gin app up that has some GPS on it, which helped from a line perspective, but I don't think any of us hit a tee shot where we thought we wanted to. We got away with some of them, but it's a little bit of a nervy shot, and then the fairway sort of falls down towards the left at maybe a couple hundred yards away from the green. And you sort of fall back into the valley, finishing up on a relatively mundane green complex. But I just thought it was a good hole. Admittedly, I think there's a few on the back nine that I'm kind of splitting hairs with, and could have gone a number of different directions from a favorite hole perspective. I thought the back nine had some fun character to it.
I felt like that hole was very claustrophobic off the tee because you really had one line. I'll say two lines. You either hit an iron off the tee on the right-hand side, right of those trees, and just laid up and left yourself, with like 200 to 160 in, or you hit a driver over the tree to the group of trees on the left-hand side, hope that it clears those trees, hits the downslope, and goes into the right direction in the right, little funnel area. And when you take that line, which I think every single one of us decided to take that line, it is an extremely challenging hole. I think if I was to go back and play it, I would hit like a 5-iron or maybe my 4-iron or hybrid and just kind of lay it up right of those trees and then hit it, just over that little water cutout that was there, onto the green. That would probably be the best play if you're trying to score low on that hole. But first time playing it, that's not fun. You don't want to do that shit. You want to fucking bomb it over the trees and hope for the best into a blind landing area that we have no clue what the fuck's going to happen.
It was beautiful, but yeah, I hate that hole. Me and my partner both went OB there. It really unraveled fast for us after Chris said, "Hey, you guys are right there in it."
Yeah,
what the hell?
I jinxed
and both
that.
of us going OB on 17 and 18 really didn't help. But yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting hole in terms of how you could play. Like JD was saying, I'd love to go back and just see how you'd attack that.
Yeah, Crooked River Ranch made me want to go back and play it. That's a sign of a good golf course. I really, really enjoyed it, and it made me want to go back there, which I didn't feel as much with the resort course. If I'm in the area, I'm looking for a cheap round, resort course is there. We know it's there. But Crooked River Ranch, made me want to drive out of my way to play it again.
With how Chris has described the resort as your family getaway and wanting to go back and play Crooked River, I think we know where the Reinhardt family is going for family vacations moving forward. This is a new development, right? This just in. Chris
Pick you up an RV and get on out there.
I'm gonna get myself a Tioga, with the overhead sleeper, drive it on out to Crooked River Ranch, maybe get murdered at night, let little Frankie run around barefoot all over the place like a little hoodlum.
Yeah, I'm not. I've made the decision that when I come to Portland, I'm not staying with you. I'm afraid that you're going to roll out the leather, whatever it is, with all the knives in it. I mean, if this is your idea of family vacation, we need to have a chit chat.
As long as the wife works in Picasso, there's no vacations at Crooked River Ranch in Tioga. I'll tell you that.
I don't think they had a place as nice as the one that we did at
No,
Eagle Crest.
I will give massive props to Eagle Crest's, great places to stay. But, Bean, what was your favorite hole back nine? Go.
I'd go 16. Another par 3. Kind of just like the hole JD described, but kind of the reverse, mountainside on the right, trees down the left. Really just tight tee shot. Bunkers on each side of the green, one front left. Really tough green. Just love the way that looked from the tee there with the little river on the left side as well.
I think all of those holes tucked up in that canyon, 15, 16, 17, were probably the 3 best placed holes on the golf course. I'm not going to say they were the best holes, but they were. When an architect saw that canyon and saw those cutouts, he knew what the fuck he was doing. It was laid out for them. I don't know how much land they had to move to create those holes, but it felt very natural within those 3 holes. It felt like they kind of placed it within those outcrops.
I wouldn't imagine very much, like you said, it seemed to fit kind of what the natural landscape was. The river, the stream that was off to the left seemed like kind of just a natural snow runoff type of stream, if you will, creek. I thought that 16 was really a cool par 3, kind of a bold green, uphill, tough to see the putting surface. You don't really know kind of what you're getting at. But a kind of straightforward par 3 with a big green with a beautiful landscape. I don't think there's much not to like.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of continue it along those lines, and I'm going to say 15 was probably my favorite on the back nine. It was a really, in my opinion, 15 was an extremely challenging hole. Uphill, par 4. It wasn't long, only 318 from the back where we played. It technically could be drivable, but it narrowed like crazy at the green. I mean, you would have to hit your driver on a dime to be able to drive this hole.
Or just bank it off a tree like
that's
Ethan.
True. Yeah, Ethan did bank it off tree on the right-hand side, right of the cart path, bounced it onto the backside of the green. That was...
Yeah, one of the greatest lucky shots I've ever seen in my life. Just incredible.
I have never seen a ball hit a tree 40 yards short of the green and end up on the back edge of the green.
I think all of us thought it was OB. I don't think any of us thought it actually landed on the green.
I still don't know how it did.
I don't either. It was miraculous. Way to
go, Ethan.
There was that big slope that kind of came off of the cart path that kind of came down into the green. So, he could have got, a bounce off the tree onto the cart path, sloped down off of that guy. But, it's an absolute mystery. Because, how that hole played, there's no way for us to even see if it was up there from the tee box anyways. It was crazy. But that hole kind of gives you, there's multitude of ways for you to lay up and figure out how you want to play the hole. And the one thing I think with that hole is you've got the creek that runs along the left-hand side of it. You've got kind of a hill and cart path on the right-hand side. You have to hit a really good golf shot off the tee to leave yourself with a good shot in. And you do get some relief, I think, hitting onto this green because they have that slope that kind of runs along the entire right-hand side and back of it. So even if you play it a little bit long or off to the right, it'll kind of come off those slopes and, funnel back into the green, which I think is great for such a challenging hole. You should give some relief kind of giving into that approach shot. So, 15, 16, 17, I think by far best 3 holes on the course, let alone back 9. So afterwards, after we finished up our atrocious rounds, me and JD, finished gross 5th place. We didn't play bad. We didn't play good. It just wasn't our day. Bean almost took the net. I shouldn't have fucking jinxed them. I told them how close they were to the net. I kind of felt like the net was slightly out of reach, though, because the guys that won it, I think one of the guys in the group got a fucking hole-in-one.
I think he made a net 0.
Yeah, a little rough. I won't blame you, Chris. You gave me the motivation I needed. We just fell apart. Few OBs. Ethan even went OB on 16, the par 3. Told him, don't worry about it. I'm gonna knock this close. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get a birdie, and we both stroke on 17 and 18. So we're set. We're winning this thing, right? And then I proceeded to miss the 2-foot downhill birdie putt, and it all went to hell from there. So I'll take full blame.
The golf course kind of lulled you to sleep a little bit, and then all of a sudden you stand up on 17 going, where the fuck do I hit this? And then 18 wasn't a cupcake of a tee shot either. I hit it 2 holes over, so I'm very much aware of how hard the out of bounds creeps in tight on the right. Ethan hit a good drive. He just hits it too far, and kind of got through the fairway into what was probably poorly placed out of bounds stakes more so than anything. He very easily could have played his ball. I think to the Eagle Crest rattlesnake conversation, I think some of the out of bounds that they put out there is hey, don't go look for your ball out here because you might find something other than your golf ball. I think those are more what those out of bounds stakes were for than anything. So little unfortunate, but probably the 2 hardest holes on property were 17 and 18 as well.
Yeah, I actually kind of slipped on 18. I mean, that approach into that green, how protected that green was not easy. 18 was, you really got kicked in the balls on the last 4 holes. I mean, they, like you just said, you kind of, caked your way through the front 9, stopped on the turn, refueled a little bit, kind of got a little sleepy coming through 13, 14, and then you just get slammed. Baseball bat to the nuts. It just really gets you.
Yeah, I almost wish we would have started on 17 or 18 after the way it all played out.
Yeah, you know what? Now you look back on it, we were like stoked we got to play on 1 because we got to play the course the true way. But I mean, in that format, it almost would have been better to start on those back holes, get them out of the way when you were wide awake, ready to go, alert, and then kind of finish it up on that easy, 7, 8, 9 finish there.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the way we played it. Made the drive to the bar shorter.
That's true.
Very good point.
We needed that real bad at the end.
I'm shocked we finished 5th, but neither here nor there.
It was actually 7th, not to burst the bubble.
No, I was going to say that.
I just looked it up because I wanted to know where I was at. So
yeah,
not bad.
Wasn't
pretty, but it was a good day. Always a good day playing with you fellas, and I enjoyed it. We're gonna have to get another trip going here soon. But next week, tune in for Juniper. Me and JD are gonna get together. We're gonna talk probably between us. Unfortunately, Bean didn't get to join us on that golf course. He had to come a day late. But between me and JD, we would definitely say Juniper was the best course that we played over the weekend. And stay tuned for that. We're leaving the best for last. It's going to be a good one. All right, fellas. Thank you for coming in, tuning in. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you, Bean.
Good to see you, man. Excited to hear that one about Juniper.
Yes, sir.
Should be fun.